everything I made in 2024. It's a lot. This year was full of sewing and crafting and woodworking, and I kind of wanted to show you a few of the different things that I made throughout this year. I have majority of what I've made in front of me, of what I could kind of find and remember that I made this year. And so I want to just kind of take you along and kind of go through. I will include a link down below of all of the supplies or patterns that I use. So if you are inspired to make one of these yourself, you can find it there. I am proud of a lot of these projects, and I've grown a lot and have learned a lot, but they're by no means perfection. And so I'm working on getting them from being kind of a homemade quality into more of a handmade artisan product that I can be really proud of. Like I said, I've learned a lot, but a lot of them were kind of just late night after the kids went to sleep. I just wanted to create something. And so it was me just getting a project done and not necessarily taking the time to make it the quality product that I really want it to be. And I think that's going to be one of my focuses this next upcoming year, is really turning these into quality products. So let's jump into it. And I want to kind of start going through some of these. So one of the first things that I do know I made this year is this little deer stuffed animal. I think I made this for Valentine's Day, and I made some cute little clothes to go with it. Little like acorn pants and this little vest. The quality is kind of hit and miss. This was one of my first stuffed animals that I've made. So the thread was a different color, and I think that would have made a big difference in kind of hiding a lot of the stitching. And a lot of these you had to hand sew on. So the antlers and the ears and the arms, I believe, were all hand sewn on. And it was just kind of an adventure. But I got him done, and then I kind of made these cute little pajama pants with them too. And this pattern was included in the purchase of the deer pattern. I think I would have loved a different color green, but I used what I had, and I already had that green fabric, so we just went with it. I think if I were to have redone it, a more earthy, darker green would have been a lot cuter. But on the topic of the stuffed animals and these Studio Serene dolls, I did make two more come the fall. I wanted to give my kids kind of a little fall gift, and I thought these little foxes were adorable. I did change the pattern slightly with this one, and I pinned everything in place and just made one big sewing loop around instead of hand sewing on everything else. So I don't know how much of the quality was sacrificed for the time spent, but hand sewing on all of the limbs for the deer took forever. And so I think that it helped keep me a little bit more motivated to keep this project going, just because it went by so much faster. There's a few little mistakes, like the little fox's cheeks didn't quite get all pushed out. And again, I didn't use a thread that matched the back of them. And so I think that they would look a little bit cleaner with that. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how these little foxes turned out. They're pretty cute, and my son really likes to play with them. And then the foxes each came with a little outfit too. There's a little pair of overalls, and the fabric that I chose for the tops of the overalls was a little bit too soft and more difficult to work with. It liked to fray a lot. And then the little dress, though, I did make corduroy, and I think this turned out pretty much perfect. I think the only thing that I really need to kind of learn and figure out is these Velcro straps. I need to kind of figure out a different way to fasten the clothes shut, because the ones that had the sticky side just are not staying. But overall, I'm really happy with how all of those turned out. For one of our girls' nights this year, my friends and I made matching scrunchies and bows. So the moms got scrunchy hair ties and the little girls got bows. My one friend and I put them on these little stretchy bands so that we could put them on our baby. And then my other friend, I added like a barrette to hers for her older daughter. But they kind of turned out really cute, and I don't really have any outfits that match these bows for her, but they are really adorable. And then using the same fabric, I just made these for Christmas, but my daughter is starting to teeth, and I had some of these wooden rings from a really old project, but I just made a little bunny loop. This was just kind of self-drafted. I just kind of drew it up on a piece of paper and then started cutting. But I just made kind of these little bunny ears and then you just kind of loop it around the teething ring, and it just kind of makes a nice little teether, and you can wash it and or hang it from a little tripod toy or something like that. But she really seems to like these, and it's a kind of a fun, easy project to kind of whip out. Then I also tried to make this little quilted bookmark because I've been really into reading this year, and I thought this would have been really fun to make for the girls in my book club. However, I didn't love how it turned out. So my lines were all kind of over the place, which I was just trying to kind of get this project done quickly and see if it was even worth my time. But I made a 3x3 inch, and I don't know if it's too small and if I need to just try a bigger size, but it would not stay in a book. And so for a bookmark, it was kind of doing a bad job. But I do like the concept. I thought it did turn out kind of cute, and I'd love to try it again in the future. Well, my baby just woke up, so she's going to join us. She's going to play on the floor for a little bit, but if you hear some background noise, that's what that is. But speaking of baby, I did try to make a few things when I was pregnant for her. I found this really fun fabric that I just thought was adorable at the time, and I bought a bunch of it, and I didn't really know what to make with it, but I thought it was kind of perfect because I love everything that's kind of like small nature. So foraging, mushrooms, little flowers, little snails, bugs, kind of all those little tiny elements of nature are some of my favorites. And I found this fabric that had pretty much all of those: ferns, mushrooms, little snails, everything like that. And so I tried making a boppy cover, and it went okay. It's functional. It covers the pillow itself. However, I just like self-drafted this. It was not following any sort of pattern. It probably would have been a lot better if I followed a pattern. But I essentially just didn't get enough fabric on the back for it to kind of overlap, which is what I was trying to do. Is I just wanted it to kind of fold over itself. If I went to go make this again, I would have needed to make these pieces a lot bigger, these back two panels, and make sure that they really overlap a lot better than they did, or maybe add like a fastener. And I probably should have used a pattern, but overall we've used it a few times, and we don't really use it for longer than a few weeks anyway with our newborns, so it served its purpose, and it made me happy because I really loved this fabric. And the other thing that I made with this same fabric was a ring sling, and I don't have a ring sling, so I had bought so much of this though that I wanted to try to make it out of this. And typically cotton isn't recommended for ring slings just because it's a little bit too heavy almost. It's not cool enough, like it gets too hot. But we live in a very northern climate, and so I wasn't too worried about her getting too hot in the ring sling just because majority of our year is colder. And so I tried this. This was a very simple project, but it's really fun. She hates it, but I don't think it's the ring sling's fault. I think my baby just doesn't really like carriers, because every carrier I've put her in, she is not a fan. But I was really excited for this project. I'm glad that I have it. Maybe when she gets a little bit older and can kind of support herself better and sit on my hip, I might end up liking this a lot more. But right now she really is not a big fan of any of the carriers, but I still think it turned out kind of cute. So I made a few blankets for my kiddos. I had this really fun gingerbread fabric that I bought on sale last year after Christmas, and I made just a very simple car seat blanket. It's just big enough to kind of sit in their laps, and this has honestly been kind of the right warmth level for a lot of our traveling, just because it does get warm in the car eventually, but just as that initial something to have a little extra layer. And I essentially just put the two pieces together, sewed all the way around, and then just cut and frayed them. And this will get more and more frayed the more times I wash it. But it was just something very simple to have. I didn't know what else to use this fabric for, and I thought they would like it. And so far we've gotten a lot of use out of these little gingerbread blankets this winter. And I also made some fleece blankets for Halloween, and this was a different pattern, and I actually followed a tutorial for this one instead of just making it up, which it went a lot better. But this one's just so clean, and it has kind of a really nice edging all the way around it. And I think this is a minky fabric on the inside here with a fleece on the outside. And this is a really nice and warm car seat blanket, and it's just kind of perfect. I don't know, for like really cold days, if we need something a little bit extra, I pull out this. Otherwise, the flannel one was kind of perfect, but I made 2 of each of these for my kiddos as kind of like little gifts. Now, my main pride and joy of this year is this dress. I drafted it from a dress that we had from Amazon. I am really proud of this dress. I learned a lot. There are a lot of things that I would change about it. One being that I just used quilting cotton, and I think that's probably everyone's biggest mistake when they're trying to make anything with clothing. But the reason being is that we really don't have very many stores that sell apparel fabric. And so I went with what I had, and because I didn't really know if I wanted to order stuff or what. In the future, maybe I will, but I just chose fabrics that made me happy and went with that. I did do French seams on all of this, and so everything on the inside is very clean and feels very professional. I am very happy with how that turned out. I was very lazy when it came to pressing this, and so it does not have kind of the nicer edges that I would love. I did top stitch everything, which I didn't know about understitching until last night. And so maybe for a future garment I will understitch, but I did top stitch everything. I made my own bias tape out of it. This isn't cotton, or quilting cotton, but I don't really know what it is. It's super wrinkly though, as you can tell. And then the other thing is I didn't really do a great job at measuring my tiers, and the difference between the top tier to the middle tier seems okay, but then the bottom tier is so much wider that there's so much more bunching, and it kind of poofs out a little bit more than I would have liked it to, if that makes any sense. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. It does look like one of my seams is breaking, so that's not ideal, but overall, it was kind of fun, and I wore this for Thanksgiving. I did add pockets, which were an adventure, and I would definitely change how I did that next time if I were to do it again, but overall, I really liked how this turned out. I did make this Ninja Turtle house. This was supposed to be a little pizza shop, and it had a little door, which we already broke, but I used some air dry clay to make the bricks and the concrete look, and then they kind of have like a little living room down here, and a few of his accessories are not in it currently, but then there's like this little side, and that's just like a little pizza shop, and he's been having a lot of fun with this. A few more of what I sewed this year was I did make my daughter her very first Christmas dress. I found some really adorable fabric in one of my grandma's Christmas bins that has to be as old as I am, but it was so adorable that I needed to use it. I'll show you a close-up of all the details here so you can see them. The pattern I used left a little bit to be desired for instructions, and I think I probably needed to size up one for her, not from the pattern's fault, just because I think she grew a little bit more than I had anticipated. But overall, I'm really excited to kind of keep making these little dress types, and I think it'd be really fun to continue making them for her each year. And also, my mom had this really fun idea of taking the scraps from this fabric and making her like a little Christmas ornament for her tree every year, if I do decide to keep making her Christmas dresses. So, you want to play with that one? Okay. One of the projects that I was really proud of, but I need a little bit of personality added to them, I think, for next year, is I did make my family's stockings, and so I did some quilting in these equilateral triangle pieces, and I'll include a link to the video of that if you are interested in watching this as well. And then on the back side, I added a pocket, and so these turned out really fun, and I think that we'll be able to enjoy these for a long time. And I think the pocket just kind of adds a little bit of extra special magic touch to the stocking for like a candy cane or a little stuffed animal or whatever goes in there. But I'm pretty happy with how these turned out, and I made 5 of these, one for each of us and my dog. And then also in my grandma's fabric bin, I found a vest, like a cut and sew vest from a long time ago, but I just made kind of this little Christmas vest thing here. A few of the details I hadn't gotten to yet, but I thought it kind of turned out a little fun. And then I added a little tie in the front with like a little bow to kind of finish it off. But this one was just kind of a fun, quick project. I did curve a lot of the corners. It came to a point here and it came to a really sharp point at the bottom. And so I kind of softened those to kind of make it not as harsh, just for my style. I did make some pot holders for my mother-in-law this year, and I wanted to kind of experiment with that because I did have some of the heat insulated batting or whatever you would use for a pot holder, and they turned out a little rough. They're not the best, but they are functional, and it was my first pot holder, so I'm not going to be too upset about it, but the lines are definitely not straight in that. Now, a few of the other projects that I did is I painted my dad a painting of his piece of land that they just got this year for hunting. I'll put a picture of what I was trying to copy when we went out there and took some family photos, and then kind of how it turned out. It's not the best. I was pretty happy with how the clouds turned out, and I was kind of happy with the foreground, like the grass, but the actual rock itself, I don't really know what I needed, but I repainted it 4 times before finally deciding that that was going to have to be good enough. And then a few of the other things that I painted are, I made this really fun little baby hairbrush for my daughter, and it has her name on it, and oh, there we go, has her name and these really kind of cute strawberries. This is such a soft brush. I'm obsessed with this, and I Mod Podged over the top of it to kind of seal it in. But I feel like this would be such a cute baby gift, like if you're going to a baby shower or something, to kind of hand paint with, even if you don't know the name, but if they're having like a little girl or something, or even a little boy, I'm sure you can make one too, but it would just be a really sweet little baby gift, or even once the baby arrives and you do know their name. But I am pretty thrilled with how that one turned out, and I gave that to her for Christmas. And then one of the things that I gave my son is he's very excited about photos, and so I printed off a photo of him and his sister, and so she gave him this one. I just found a plain wooden frame from Hobby Lobby and painted just a few of our little fun things on it, like acorns and mushrooms and a moth, some flowers, pine cones, strawberries, different things like that, just to kind of go with his room, and I thought that kind of turned out a little bit fun. All right, so this is one of my projects that I'm most proud of. I feel like it turned out really good, even though it didn't require like a ton of skill. But I think it's a little bit more sentimental to me, and that's why I like it so much. But I made 3 shadow boxes of different trips that we've taken, and so different little things that we've collected on those trips or throughout those days, and kind of put them on a little shadow box. And I wanted to kind of emulate like a little bit of like a curiosity cabinet, or but kind of, you know, have that sentimental value because it's our trip. This one's probably my favorite because it's from where we live. It's just different things that we've collected, whether we were out in the garden and found a robin's egg or a sparrow egg or a praying mantis, or we went on a hike and found some little snail shells or a bird feather or something like that. And then we had like a little bird's nest that had fallen out of the tree, and I put that in there. But kind of all of our little local things, and I love this one just because of all of the little adventures that we've gone on together. And so I put that one in my son's room. And then we went to Oregon this year, and so I made one of little seashells that we found at the beach. They have different pine trees, like a Douglas fir, so I put some of those in there, just kind of from our little trip as well. And then when we were in Siesta Keys 2 years ago, we had collected a whole bunch of seashells because there was a big storm and washed a bunch of stuff up onto the beach. And so we were able to find a whole bunch of really neat things. So I wanted to put those in there as well. My only complaint is these shadow boxes were thrifted for very cheap, which was great because shadow boxes are so expensive. But they have plastic as the tops, and maybe one day I will replace these with glass just to kind of make them look a little bit higher quality, because they do have like a little bit of a fog to them. But overall, I'm really happy with how these turned out, and I thought it was a really fun little sentimental piece of artwork from our trips. So I believe that is it for projects. I also did make a baby, so we're gonna count her as one of my projects. But thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'm hoping to share a lot of gardening and cooking and kind of crafting videos on here in the next year. And thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you guys in the next video.